Hello everybody, you're listening to The Arch on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host Dane Cobain. This is the weekly radio show where we chat about the local arts news. We have a different guest on each week. We head over to the Rhylight Zone for a short story and or some poetry. We catch up with Twangling Jack Ford over in the Ilk Shed for a weekly album review, and we play local, unsigned and or independent music. As always, you can find us on Facebook. If you search for The Arch Show on Wickham Sound, you should be able to find us. We're also repeated on Wickham Sound on Monday nights. We're on the Wickham Sound Listen Again, iTunes, Spotify and wherever else you get your podcasts. Please do leave us a short review on your podcast platform of choice. It all helps. You can also reach out to me here at the studio on dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. That's dane.cobain @wickhamsound.org.uk. And I'm particularly keen to hear from poets, performers, musicians, people with MP3s to share, stories to share. Don't hesitate to get in touch. So this week we're going to be chatting to musician Nick Coleman. But before we do that, we're going to head over to the Rhylight Zone for the final instalment in Twangling Jack Ford's series, My Musical Journey.
Sweet home high Wickham, the pepper pot and mausoleum, Hellfire caves and chair museum, the Nag's Head where the pistols played, the site where G-Plan once was made, a big chair for the furniture trade. Sweet home high Wickham, where the Hellfire Club played their degenerate games. I had spent a large part of my creative adult life working on concept pieces or musicals, but my biggest success was a video of a song that lasted less than 2 minutes. I filmed most of it one cold, boring Boxing Day and finished it in the spring with a shot of me in the field of daffodils at Hughenden Park. Apparently it became popular with the students at the uni. I get recognised in the street because of it. The 3 versions have had about 80,000 hits between them, but still I kept on trying to get a musical off the ground. So my friends Phil Ryan the songwriter, Denny Burton the keyboard wizard and myself had written a modern musical and had then been advised to write a period piece, and having done that had then been advised to write a modern musical again. I wrote a treatment of Nicholas Nickleby set in a care home. Another of those ideas so good that somebody else did it after me. We decided to do the novel Trilby by Georges du Maurier, famous for featuring the character Svengali. It is the story of an older man, a failed musician, grooming a young woman for the success he never had. It is about coercive control and possible drug misuse. A man I describe as having no use for love and hate, only living to manipulate. The other 2 backed out, but over a period of more than 10 years I kept coming back to it and adding new songs. One song took me 5 years to write. I needed to explain how the Svengali character was so sure he would succeed, so I gave him a formula. Trust in me and let me always guide you, and a part of me will always be beside you. Now I'm absolutely sure you have just the voice I've been searching for. Now I've found the final part of the equation, the formula to make my reputation. What a boost to a career, to know exactly what it is the public want to hear. Music like the sounds of their lives, a film like score of ever-present background noise, melodies familiar to everyone. Sing this way and all the world will want to hear your voice. Music's in the sounds that surround us. With all happening was to her child. I had become involved with Wickham Arts Centre, which at the time was called Arts for Everyone. I started volunteering right at the start of their taking over the church and church hall on Desborough Road. I mostly painted walls. People would ask what I personally wanted from an arts centre, and I always replied that I wanted to put on a musical. The Arts Centre staged an event in March 2011. I gave my first ever solo singing performance, performing Sweet Home High Wycombe on the piano. My friend Lauren held up lyrics for the audience, and they also had somebody signing for the deaf. When the work had finally finished, the group of us that had been meeting on Saturdays to decorate then started to meet on Saturdays to share our art. This then became regular monthly Saturday afternoon performances. I found some singers, but I finally had to accept that I would need to perform one of the parts myself. I had to sing and play either keyboard or guitar at the same time. In my band days, the only singing I was ever allowed to do was the congressman in Summertime Blues. I'd like to help you, son, but you're too young to vote. I found my participants amongst the other performers. I am not a natural leader, and I'm sure I was showing Svengali tendencies. So much so that I was able to write a sympathetic song for him to sing. He was only doing what he was doing for the benefit of those he was doing it to. Every month we would do 3 or 4 numbers, and I eventually had film of the whole thing.
I know it's out there someplace, the life that I meant to live. Right now so many empty spaces, don't know how much more that I can give. I don't want an ordinary world, under ordinary skies. Take me where the dreamers live, take me where the bluebirds fly. Show me that a true love's kiss really, really does exist. I wasn't meant to live under ordinary skies. I wasn't meant to live under ordinary skies.
Well, that wasn't too bad, I suppose. I was so nervous that when we were allowed a slot at another Arts Centre event, I took a week off work to prepare. The Saturday thing fizzled out, and I started running a Friday open mic night, where I would also try to get the other performers to do songs from Svengali. I even joined a theatre group that was starting up at the Arts Centre. I endured all kinds of improv exercises just in the hope of getting Svengali done, but to no avail. One day I was walking the dog and I met an ex-work colleague who was running an open mic night in a pub in Maidenhead. The Anchor made claim to being the only pub where it is Halloween every night. I performed the whole Svengali piece there in costume, singing to a backing track I had made. The piece had then become known as Where Dreams Come to Die. They tell you to follow your dream, but that might just lead to that place where dreams come to die. When you look at your life, do you see what you want to see? Will you dare to succeed? Are you scared you might fail? Will you reach for the stars? Or will you just hide away? Will you be the hero of your own tale? Does the music follow you everywhere? But if it's not there, does the day just seem wrong? Do you stand on the street tapping your feet, resisting the urge to burst into song? And when they and your dreams have come true, and you come to see it has all been a lie. You find yourself shouting out why, but you know there will be no reply. Till you stand in your face in that place where dreams come to die. I developed a costume from unlikely charity shop finds that I had picked up over the years for such an occasion. This was also a voyage of self-discovery, as I adopted aspects of the character's sartorial and makeup choices for myself. I also took on a stage name, Twangling Jack, an insult from the Taming of the Shrew. I was at an open mic at the General Elliot in Uxbridge when I encountered a woman named Mika. I sensed she may be at least slightly interested in my performance, but I was totally blown away by hers. She had a look and a sound I wanted for my musical. Her songs interested me, but they were not what I wanted. Once again I became the Svengali. I persuaded her to take a listen to Where Dreams Come to Die. She told me she had once been something in advertising. She told me her and her partner were interested in the musical. She made a website. She sent me graphics. She named it Gospra, and I had been Svengali'd. I had a meeting on a boat. Large sums of money were mentioned. I was getting used to hearing the mention of large sums of money, but part of me regretted that we had never performed as a duo at the Anchor. The Anchor was pulled down and the whole world went into lockdown. And all our dreams died. I joined a virtual open mic Facebook group called Open Mixolate, and I would spend those isolation spring days of 2020 locked in my shed filming myself playing songs to share. This developed into virtual duets with Dane Cobain, who I'd worked with at the Arts Centre and the Anchor. I realised this was an opportunity to film an isolation gospel. I sent people backing tracks which they filmed themselves singing to. I then assembled all these performances. A highlight for me was getting Ali Curry of Ear Candy and Grace Note to sing one of the big numbers, a song I had never previously found a suitable singer for.
Where did the magic go? Where are the crowds wanting more? And the glorious when you sung the encore, have I taken my final bow? Where did it all go wrong? Where did the magic go? What can I do now, now that it's all?
One of my pet hates is the song Don't Stop Believing, and the whole idea that you just have to want something bad enough and you just have to work hard enough at it and you will get it. The musical ends with a song that is the anti-Don't Stop Believing. It has the line, "Don't waste your life, most dreams don't come true." It is called Advice. I managed to get Joe Warren and Colin Upfield to join Dane, Amanda and me on that one.
Don't waste your life, most dreams don't come true. Follow your own path, enjoy being you. Don't need to have it all, whatever people say. Don't wait for success.
Be observant without being clinical. Be skeptical without being cynical.
I knew there were some songs of mine that could be played simply, and some people would like them even if it was me that performed them. And many of those people would be strangers, and that would be all the success I really needed. I planned that when we got let out I would take my own advice. Be Happy Today.
Always listen to advice, then make your own choice and learn to separate the wisdom from the noise. Always make peace with those you've upset and never repeat the things you regret. Be happy today.
Big thank you to Twangling Jack Ford for this week's entry into the Rhylight Zone. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and this is Silverbacks with Chaotic Harmony.
Be a thief if you feel like. Be the falcon true outside. Be the time in the infinite. In one and only life. Be the water turn into wine. Be the hero living a fight. Go on, Lord, come on. Be the writer of your own life. Be the author, don't be shy. Be the leaf if you feel like. Be the flirt if you feel right. Be your enemy, your alibi. Everyone who told you more. Be a healer, a parasite. Be a gambler, roll the dice. Go on, Lord, come on. Be the writer of your own life. Be the author, don't be shy. See your soul. I see your soul and it's not back at me. I see your soul. I see your soul and it's not back at me. I see your soul. I see your soul and it's not back at me. I see your soul. I see your soul and it's not back at me. I see your soul. I see your soul and it's not back at me. I see your soul. I see your soul and it's not back at me. I see your soul. I see your soul and it's not back at me. I see your soul. I see your soul and it's not back at me. I see your soul. I see your soul and it's not back at me. I see your soul.
You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and I'm joined now in the studio by this week's guest, who is Nick Coleman. Awesome. Well, obviously, I want to mostly chat to you about music today, and I thought a good place to start would be to ask, how long have you been making music, and where did you get your start?
When did I start making music? Probably, what, as in making my own music or just playing an
Just in
instrument?
general? Yeah, in general.
Okay, so I suppose I was 14 years old when I picked up guitar, so that's now 27 years ago. And all my mates had guitars, and we used to jam at the local youth club. Or they had a drum kit set up, and we all bought our little guitars, and we were mad on the Beatles and Oasis, which was and Blur, which was the thing at the time. And I sort of picked it up with my friends, and we just jammed out covers. It was great fun, actually, and I was hooked really from that moment.
Awesome. And so you kind of, I guess, hinted at it. So where did you, at what point did you start creating your own music? How long had you been playing by that point?
So I started creating my own music. We bought a Tascam 8-track analog system, and that would have been 2006, I think. I had written a few songs when I was 16 with the guitar. I think I've still got them in a folder somewhere. So I guess in that respect, we did sort of knock about, messing around, trying to write some songs. But in earnest, started playing with the 8-track in 2006. We were in a band, but sort of pop punk affair, and yeah, we started knocking our own tunes out, and that was great fun, super addictive.
Cool. And what was that band, and sort of what was the story there?
This band was called the Underdogs. So I had played at the age of 18 as a drummer in a band, covers band, and it used to write, actually make our own music then, but we never really recorded anything. The mainstay of that is probably my mate Chris Broom, who's always from the age of 14. We played guitar together, and then we decided to we were playing with a bunch of older guys, 20 years our senior. We decided to start writing and create a band of our own age around our peers with our own sort of influences and doing what we wanted to do, as it were.
Yeah. Cool. And you mentioned that you played the drums as well. So I did want to ask, like, what other instruments do you play?
So yeah, I can play the drums, a bass player. So I moved from the drums to the bass guitar because we couldn't find a bass player. So I said, well, I'll play the bass. And we had a drummer, and we were a three-piece for 3 years. I think we were a three-piece, and then we got a second guitarist in. And that was great fun. We recorded a single, done a small tour of the UK, and that was great fun out in the van. And that was about it, really. And then we sort of we just stuck to playing the pubs in the local area, really.
Yeah. Cool. And so when you sit down to write a song, what does that look like to you? Do you start with lyrics? Do you start with, the music, or does it depend?
In this day and age, it depends. When I first started, it was very much music first, riff based, groove based first, and then the lyrics will come afterwards, which is still very much the case now. I will noodle on my guitar, find something I like, and then the sort of lyrics come afterwards. But even I would say from a young age, from 17, 18, I was always scribbling in a notebook.
Yeah.
And so I've got notebooks and notebooks and notebooks full of it still. And I still do it now. I log it one place or another. And sometimes then when you're playing a song, or you've got something going on, a progression, and you sort of know what you're looking for, and you can go through the books, and then it will jump out. Yeah, that's the words we're looking for.
Yeah.
And there has been the occasional songs, you know yourself, as a songwriter, sometimes you sit down with the guitar and things come from nowhere. A whole lot, which is they're the great ones. It's 20 minutes later, you've got a song. I think, well, yeah, like that, you know.
Awesome. Cool. And so I guess the way we know each other is through the Open Mic Slate group on Facebook. And I wondered, how has that been useful for you, I guess as a musician, but also as a person in general, kind of getting through COVID and lockdowns and all of that stuff?
I think it was just the most wonderful time, really, in the most difficult circumstances. I was just starting as a solo acoustic performer just before COVID. So I'd separated from my mother and my children about a year and a half before COVID, and I gave up the band because I didn't have the time. I've got two young children, but then I started playing with the guitar, and I thought, well, actually, if I go out on my own, I can play when I want to play. So I came into COVID really as a solo acoustic performer. So the group was wonderful for all of us, as you know, as a musician. We were ever so spoiled in the early, the first year, maybe 18 months. We were so spoiled with just a fantastic variety of great performers and a beautiful supportive network as well, and you really got to know these people that you were conversing with on a daily basis. And to me, then I just started to learn a tune with all that spare time. It was like, well, I'm just going to learn a new song every day. And then you put it on the site, and then everyone says, hey man, that's cool, well done. And you sort of, as yourself, you get the bit between your teeth, and you say, well, what am I going to do today? And what am I going to do today? So the Open Mic Slate group was fantastic both as a musician because of the things you could learn from everybody else. Also, as you were practicing lots and you had a platform to practice to, sort of a willing audience as you would, and double more so, especially as a person, we all needed that outlet. And you know yourself as me, it probably carried an awful lot of people through, especially as I call them the professionals who were out doing it properly, and then they couldn't do it. For them, they had the outlet. You know, still am very much, you know, sort of an amateur sort of pub player. Yeah, no, it was a really great time, and I forged some fantastic friendships. From all of it. And you know, I was up in Wickham area last month, and I played a gig in the Bell in Princess Risborough, and you know, it was just a lovely road trip, you know, and catch up with all these guys that I've met. And it was lovely when I was up here and with you guys, and I just felt really lucky and blessed that I could be in this position, you know.
Cool. And well, sorry, go ahead.
That's all right. That all ultimately stemmed from Open Mic Slope, which is and it still bubbles along.
It does. Yeah. Well, and one of the things with that as well is like the sort of the motto or whatever is like you know, music is the glue. And I wondered, like, how do you think music helps to bring people together?
I ended up getting a tattoo saying "music is the glue" on my forearm, which was it's a homage to that period of time. So so music is the glue. I mean, when I separated with my ex-partner, I was in pieces really, and so music in that hard time really carried me through. As long as you could listen to a good song, you know, I found myself listening to the same song all day sometimes because it meant something. And you know yourself, when you've had a bad day, you put your music on, and it really sticks you together, and it also forges relationships with other people, and you connect with people who like the same thing as you. You know, again, the Open Mic Slate was, I came from before that, not really knowing a lot of musicians in my area. Sometimes thinking, oh, am I the only person that does this around here? You know, or we're not being able to connect. Suddenly to have an absolute plethora of people that I know from all over the country and in cases from across the world. And that's what music does. It brings people together. You see people in a field at Glastonbury Festival, per se, and that's, you know, 80,000 people all there for a common cause, you know.
Well, I like that as well because I hadn't thought of it in that way, but I suppose it's like music is the glue in the two ways that glue is used. So you know, it can bring people together, and like sort of solidify those bonds between people, but also it can be used to repair things and to, you know, put yourself back together after a stressful time in life.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, you're now on the head there, really. Cool. It is really just fantastic, and we need more of it in this life. We need more music. You need to, you know, get away from this academia that they want to push on everybody in the school and education system, and be more creative arts and opportunities. Because you know, you watch. I quite often say at a gig, the first people up dancing are the toddlers, or perhaps a disabled element of the society, that because they've no shackles, no inhibitions, they've not no worries. The beat goes straight into them, and they're like, "Hey, this is cool. I'm moving." You know, whereas some other people, you know, you might need a couple of beers to sort of loosen yourself up and go. But you know, on the simplest form, on the simplest what's the word? Level, really, yeah, it really is. You know, it's inbuilt into all of us. I think beat, rhythm, and it's a vibration. It's a frequency.
Yeah. You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain. I'm here in conversation with musician Nick Coleman. And this is San Dimas with Promises.
Promise made is a promise kept.
That was Promises by San Dimas. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and I'm joined in conversation now by this week's guest, who is musician Nick Coleman. And so in terms of like who you met through the Open Mic Select group, who are some of the other musicians whose work you admire?
Well, that's a good question. A very good question.
It's hard to do this without leaving people out as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to raid the memory banks on this one in particular. I think the guy Rupert LaFunk. I mean, have you ever seen his posts? I mean, he was brilliant. He's so slick with his video editing as well. He put up a video with him playing his piano in one corner of the room, bass in the other corner of the room, singing, and that was just, I was just like, witchcraft. How does he do this? I actually met Rupert in Bournemouth. He lived in France at the time, and he was playing in Bournemouth at the start of the year. I managed to meet him, which was great, and he was fantastic. Obviously, one of your guys up your way was John O'Mac. He was just made me laugh every time I watched him. He had really nice demeanor and really easy going, a nice chap. And then I'm trying to think who else there is really. One guy I really admired is Andrew Hogger. He came to the night quite late, but I really admired his folky style. Really loved his music. And
Awesome.
yeah, really forward to everything he was doing. And I'm trying to think, because there'll be someone I've missed, really, someone really obvious. When I listen back, I'll be like, oh.
That's why I like asking this question.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Atkinson I always admired. The stuff he played, he always was made me laugh. And yeah, I'm trying to think, really. There was some fantastic stuff.
You'll go on the group later and you'll see a bunch of names and you'll be like, I should have mentioned those.
Yeah. Obviously, Jazz Dillon as well. She was another great one with the loop pedal.
Yeah.
She put stuff up. You're just like, wow, this is phenomenal. Right, another guy that's really inspired me is Robert Honor, who's from Oxford, Pista, and I've actually covered one of his tracks, two of his tracks, the Python and the Bozo Penis, and I think the guy's fantastic. He's an absolute. For me, his music talks to me. You know, it's he could have written his album, "A Lounge Full of Demons," about me. I'll message him and say that. So he's like, dude, did you write about my life? You know what I mean? And I think he's fantastic. So shout out to Robert Honor, that definitely, and Keith Haller as well from Radstock. Keith Haller from Radstock in Somerset. He's a lovely guy. I've done a couple of gigs with him. He's supported me, and he's again another guy who's fantastic. Writes his own stuff. He's absolutely brilliant and inspiring on a daily basis. So.
Well, and just as you were talking about Jazz just then, and obviously her doing the loop pedal, which is something a little bit different. And I wondered, like, what do you think makes you different to other singer-songwriters?
Wow, that's a question. I don't know. I think I play a lot of different songs or curveballs, as it would might be a good people to say when I finish playing. They say, "Well, I didn't expect you to play that," or "I didn't expect you to play that." And I don't really know because I don't know too much about myself, really. I mean, a lot of the time, just COVID wise, especially, I was just having a few beers and just having a great time. Just like, well, let's have a laugh. Let's just not take things seriously. Just bang it out.
And have some fun.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it's all about, I think, ultimately. Especially when you're playing in the live arena. I think if you bring fun to people, that's what they need. A hard week of work,
Yeah, and I suppose every sort of singer-songwriter, they bring parts of themselves, parts of their own lives into, I guess, the songs they write, but also the covers they choose to play as well.
Yeah, I guess yourself as well. You're very prolific upon the site. Yourself and David as well. Admired David, what he was doing. He just a huge passion for everything he's doing. He in fact played a song called "Windmills of Your Mind" on the piano, and I was so blown away with that. It's fantastic. I thought I'm going to go and bloody learn that now. Pardon me, language. I'm going to go and learn that now, and I did, and it's just the most fantastic song. And now I play it out live, and people really, really take to it.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And mentioning like playing live, what are some of your favorite venues to play at?
My favourite venues to play at. Okay, so there's a pub called the Three Compasses in Charminster, which is near Dorchester in Dorset, and I managed to get myself a gig. Quite hard work getting in there. I had to repeatedly ask and knock on the door and keep going and keep going. That is really a mecca of music in Dorset. They have some of the best musicians in there, and on a local level, and everyone's really friendly, and it's a lovely place to meet people. There's another place called Uncle Tom's in Wincanton in Somerset, which is an absolute blast every time I play there. They're soda drinkers in there. They like to drink, and they'll sing from the moment you start. And it's really, yourself as a musician when you're playing out. They are the best ones when everyone's singing louder than you sometimes.
Yeah.
We all have our quiet ones where you've got two or three sort of not want to look at you. You're doing your thing and that. But that place is Uncle Tom's, fantastic. And then down in the social club in Southampton, it's on Sunday, which is another really good one where they all sing along. They all like to clap and go, and that's fantastic. So they're probably the three
that stand out.
Yeah, I've had the three, and I've got multiple bookings there, and I go back every sort of 12 weeks in each of those, and they are the ones that just every time is just an absolute blast.
Yeah,
but yeah,
cool.
I do play many great venues. Really good.
Awesome. And so you mentioned going back to the Open Mic Select group. You recently did something like a kind of a collaboration with Paul Cooper from the group as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that came about?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you know about Open Mic Select, you know about Paul Cooper. He's the guy that I say Open Mic Select is his garden, and he sits and he waters it, and he's so passionate and so supportive, and he everybody knows Paul.
Yeah.
He really is the glue that puts that one together. So he found himself reciting poetry, writing poetry. He's like, I've never done this before. He goes, I admire all you guys doing what you're doing. So he had a little go. He wrote one poem, and I just thought, well, that's fantastic. And then there was a Friday challenge. It was write a song in 20 seconds. It was, and I sat there. I remember it now. I put the phone camera up against the fish tank, and I just started playing this riff. And I don't know where the riff came from, and that was the riff, and that was done. And I sort of mumbled the words over it as best as I could.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, there's a song there.
Yeah.
That ain't that bad. And so I thought I could expand on that. Paul didn't think much of it at the time. Obviously, he liked it. He was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And I thought, here we go. Here's something we can do something with this. And Paul received some of the music from the Underdogs, and he really liked it. So I thought, I'm going to write a song that's like the Underdogs. So I thought I'm going to write real punky pop, real, bit of a stomper. Anyway, I started writing that 18 months ago, really, and I went to another guy from the Open Mic Select site with Sean Keys, and he lives near me, and he's been ever so good to me, and he's invited me in, and he's done lots of production for free. He's just like a mentor to me. He's given me techniques. He's looked after me. So I started recording there, and we went up and we knocked out, and it was all sounding cool. And then it went on the back burner for about a year. And I thought, I must finish that track. I must finish that track. Eventually, I got my own equipment at home. And so then when I got that at home, I started, because Sean said, every time you come down here, you take too long to get going. He says, do the legwork at home, because he set me up with all kicks. Get this, get that. I got it all, and slowly but surely I learned how to use it. And then I started really brushing these things up. So there it was coming. And at the start of this year, I spent the last 2 years sort of really building up my repertoire of covers and playing pubs. But this year I said, right, this year I'm going to push my singing songwriting. I'm going to go out and do my own thing, because I think that's really, Sean kept saying, you need to do your own things. You need to do your own things. And I was like, yeah, but people like covers, because but they will like what you're doing as well. Sorry, I'm waffling. But
No.
So it goes anyway. So I finally got it up to speed in about February. Anyway, so I met a guy called Paul Styling from Wincanton, and I've known Paul for many years. Anyway, he used to be in a great band. I can't remember what their name was. Tempting Kate, I think it was. And they were fun. They used to play around. They're fantastic. Anyway, he now records. He's a prolific songwriter, and he does great production for a band called Blood Red Rose. And he was at Uncle Tom's one night, and he said, "Hey man," he said, "if you're doing your own stuff," he said, "I'd love to have a go at producing." So I was like, "Cool, man." So I've connected with Paul. So now I'm really lucky to have Sean and Paul, who both, they don't ask for anything, they just do it. So I sent Streets Ahead to Paul, and he was like, God, Paul styling this. He says, I really like this. I really like this. So he's gone ahead and he's really gone and made it really sound good. I mean, Sean had done a lot of pre-production on it and had the instrument sound great. Paul, and Paul really, he went away and really come back with something grand. And there we had it, and it all came together just in time for Paul's birthday this year.
Yeah.
And, I sent it off to the guy that does the videos, and I didn't think it was going to be back in time. And lo and behold, it came back the night before Paul's birthday, and I thought, oh, this is great. And then I actually connected with a great guitarist and musician down in Dorset called Danny Adams. His stuff is on Spotify. He's fantastic. And I asked him, can you smash a bit of lead on the end? And what he came back with, I was just like, wow, that's just, you couldn't have just summed it up better. Yeah. And so there it was. It all just came together at the last minute. So he said, Paul, I sent out a message and said, happy birthday, mate. Listen to this. Like, of course, he comes back and he's like, no way. No way.
Yeah.
You've done a poem. It's like, yeah, there you go, mate. Happy birthday. Thanks for all the support. This is my gift to you.
Awesome.
And, so
it's cool how it all kind of came together, as you say, as well. It was like it's meant to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wouldn't be anywhere where I am today without that group. The connections I've made, not that I'm really anywhere, but in my life in general, as where I am, my soul's quite happy. And I'm finding a lot of joy from music. I'm bringing a lot of joy to people with music, and I'm just having an absolute blast, a massive adventure, a massive journey. Awesome. So thank you to all of you out there. And one other guy I must mention from the site, actually, a guy called James Passy, fingerstyle guy, fantastic songwriter. Again, he's given me all sorts of support and advice, and really, really inspirational. And his friend Rom, who were lucky enough to meet up and bump into, being fantastic. Yeah, I consider myself incredibly lucky and blessed to even be sat here talking to you now.
No. Cool. And this kind of leads me quite nicely into the thing I want to end on, really. It's sort of two questions in one, but it's what have you got planned next, and where can people follow you to stay up to date with your musical journey?
Right, what have I got planned next? Right, next, what my biggest plan is next, and I'm going to let this one out of the hat, I think, for anybody who's listening, eventually when I get there. So I want to be able to put a show on in a venue with a big screen, proper light show, the videos, the cellos, Ben Roberts, the cellist, who's done all the cello on my tracks. And again, he takes these songs and I give them to him. They come back and I'm like, you've transformed that from what I consider to be just a song. He gives it this depth and color and wonderfulness. So hopefully to get him to play with me and to put on a show that's a audio visual spectacle, I guess, of my own stuff. And that is the ultimate plan. It might take, I don't know, it could be next year to coincide with the album. My first album I'm hoping to release next summer. It's written, the second album's written. I always said I won't release the first album until I've got the second album written, because I don't want to stop. I want momentum when we get going. So nothing as such is released on Spotify or any platforms as yet. So that leads on to the next one. Where can you find me? You'll find me on Facebook. So I drive pretty much everything I do through Facebook. On my personal profile, which is Nick Coleman, NickColeman. And there you can keep up to date what I'm gigging, and I'm releasing the videos, bit by bit. They're all considered as demos at the moment, and I'm hoping to forge the right connections to be able to get into the studio, really record the album in a real proper 4-week period in the studio, so everything's that's the dream.
Big thank you to Nick Coleman for joining me. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and this is Rob Full Stop with Older.
Problems, I promise you there one stuck in the middle of your indecisions. So try to make the see through your eyes, your eyes. That getting older is growing up that causes the problems, and your dreams they die when you decide to run. It's that getting older is growing up that causes the problems, and your dreams they die when you decide to run. Trying to solve the problems you reprise. To your surprise, there is nothing wiser than to let go and start not getting older is growing up that causes the problems, and your dreams they die when you decide to run out of time.
You're listening to the Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain. And it's time for us to head over to the Ilk Shed now for this week's album review, courtesy of Twangling Jack Ford.
Cardiacs sing to God. I saw a video of Cardiacs on TV right at the start of their career. It was like nothing else at the time, the music intentionally jerky but virtuoso, and the video crazy and slapstick, looking homemade but also arty, contrived ineptitude. I was working in a studio at the time, and I mentioned to some music biz types that I had seen something that excited me, because nothing at the time did excite me. The music biz types warned me that the Cardiacs were not fashionable and were looked down on by the music biz types. I wanted to hear more, but there seemed not to be more to hear. Then my life changed and I had no time for such things. When I heard them again decades later on Six Music, I was frustrated to find that they had made lots of records and none was still available. Imagine the whirlwind super fast crazy comedy punk of The Damned, with the eccentric English semi-ecclesiastical with tricky time signatures of early Genesis, the operatic excesses of Queen at their most pompous, and crazy but precise instrumental passages like Zappa plays Looney Tunes. It is relentless, never settling on anything long enough for it to feel satisfying. Individually, each element of each song may not be at all challenging, and are often infuriatingly catchy, but they seem to be assembled almost at random. A cut and paste collage of clashing key changes and abrupt changes of pace and time. It is like the perfect 5-course meal, only all on one plate. It is like they wrote 10 times more songs than they needed, discarded all the boring bits, and made medleys of just the climaxes. It is thrilling and exhilarating, but also quite frustrating. It is music from an alternative universe where punk was not followed by post-punk, new wave of British heavy metal, electro-pop and goth, but remained unchallenged and left to develop into its own virtuoso art form. If there is a standout track, it is the song Dirty Boy, which has an end section that builds like a Wagnerian finale. I saw a comment on YouTube saying it should be the theme to the end of the universe. They have all the right ingredients for perfect punk pop rock songs, only in an order you would never expect, and no sane person would ever choose. Cardiacs, sing to God.
Big thank you to Twangly Jack Ford for this week's album review. Thank you to Nick Coleman for being this week's guest. Thank you to everyone whose music I've shared. As always, you can reach out to me here at the studio by dropping me an email on dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. That's dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. I'm particularly keen to hear from poets, performers, musicians, people with MP3s to share, stories to share. Don't hesitate to get in touch. You can also find us on Facebook. If you search for The Art Show on Wickham Sound, you should be able to find us. And we are repeated on Wickham Sound on Monday nights. We're on the Wickham Sound Listen Again, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. So that's it for this week. I'm going to leave you with one last tune. This is Jazz Dillon with Get On Your Boots, featuring Henny Envy. I'll catch you next week.